Orchestral Tools keynote event here at the iconic Paramount Theater. It's great to have you here on this very special day, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules and joining us here. I can assure you this event holds some groundbreaking news. What you'll see today will be unlike anything you've ever seen from Orchestral Tools before. So hang on to your seats. We're also happy to announce this is the first keynote event with a live stream connection to reach out to everyone who wants to see what comes next. We're proud to announce some special guests today. There's Tom Holkenborg, aka, or as you might know him, Junkie XL, and composer David Newman. When Orchestral Tools started with the Berlin series, everything was focused on professional composers just like you. The aim was to create a virtual orchestra as flexible as possible. A true work desk tool, enabling the composer to create any orchestral idea they have in mind. An extensive set of possibilities and tools were built to accommodate this goal. The first customers, loyal from the beginning, were film composers mostly working here in Los Angeles. And that's why we feel more than welcome here in the heart of Hollywood at the Paramount Studio lot and in this legendary theater. So my dear guests, let's welcome the CEO and founder of Orchestral Tools, Henrik Schwarzer.
Welcome everyone. What a wonderful morning here at the Paramount Picture Studio in Los Angeles. It's so great to have you here today. 2018 was a big success for Orchestral Tools. Just a few weeks ago, we released another addition to our most successful series. Metropolis Arc 4 brings sharp and defined sections in the most powerful fashion on the table of many epic music and trailer composers out there. And a few weeks before that, we released Glory Days Big Band Horns. And we really went through the whole thing. 4 individually captured trumpets, 4 individual trombones, and the supreme saxophone setup. All created as consistently as possible to offer you a truly professional work desk toolset for big band writing. And now, as we dive into 2019, I'm proud to announce something completely new. Something for what we worked for years. And before I talk too much, let's see what's next. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is there. I'm so proud to announce the new Orchestral Tools sample player. In countless hours of work, we built modern sampling philosophies into a revolutionary new software ecosystem. We really focused on acoustic instruments. And that's why we worked so hard here at Orchestral Tools to get legato even more fluid, release samples more convincing, and the overall usability more intuitive. Let's start under the hood. You all know those situations when transitions from one note to another simply jump out. The same when you release a note. Often it works right, but sometimes the release sample is simply too loud and sticks out. And we work a lot here at Orchestral Tools to smooth those things out as much as we can. But samples can change their volume over their runtime. And that's why we introduce auto volume scaling. Auto volume scaling fits the volume of those release samples or legato transitions to the surrounded main samples. It makes legato more fluid and release samples are melting into one with the main samples. The most crucial element of the signal processing, where we really focused on quality, is the resampler. Our built-in resampler is created to offer uncompromised audio in real time and simply unveils all the sonic details which you haven't heard before. Now, let's take a first look on the user interface. Everything is well organized. The functional and minimalistic design is made by Axel Hartmann, who already made a design for the Moog Voyager. And we thought a lot about how to create an interface that is quick and easy to understand. We used the concept of a simple list. It's the articulation list on the right side. You open a collection in your library and simply drag an articulation to the articulation list. You choose a bunch of articulations, or you decide to load a complete instrument. Now, as you can see, the Orchestral Tools sampler assigns a MIDI channel to each instrument, and a MIDI channel to each instrument, and a key switch to each articulation. With loading and articulation, a new instrument will be created. You have to know an instrument is like a vessel, which you can fill with all those articulations of your choice. And the key switch map will be created on the fly. Now, the great thing about lists is that you can simply change the order. The mapping scheme will be changed accordingly. Also, you want to use a separate MIDI channel for each articulation? Simply let the sampler remap the whole list, or choose MIDI CCs to switch between articulations. With all the changes you do, color codes will help you to stay clear. Let's move to the performance page. The articulation map displays the activated articulation. And the keyboard displays the playing range and all the key switches. The range slider on top of the keyboard is our smart solution for transposing or expanding of the playing range. Polymaps are based on a revolutionary concept to build plans out of articulations. And it's designed to do all this in real time. Let's think about combining a short note on top of a long note. In this case, we just press the key switch for a long note and another key switch for staccato. Now we choose one of those layering methods, in this case velocity crossfade. And voila, on soft playing you get sustain only, and the harder you play, the more staccato will appear. It's really easy and quick. You're also able to switch articulations based on velocity. For example, staccato on soft velocity, marcato on high velocity. The polymap circle in the center displays what you have chosen and shows your navigation through the polymap. All layering methods here can be controlled by MIDI, so you don't need to open the player to create complex polymaps. Polymaps, by the way, can also be stored within a polymap preset. You can name them and they will get available in the articulation list. So they appear like single articulations. Now let's switch to the mixer. On the first view, you see all the different loaded instruments. When we change the volume, it's the same like changing CC7, which is the MIDI standard for main volume of an instrument. With collapsing an instrument channel strip, the available microphone perspectives will appear. It's possible to route all of them to separate player outputs. And in a perfect world, we would like to use all microphone positions as they are there to shape the sound. But you all know, with the usage of more microphone positions, the CPU and memory consumption goes way up. In a not that perfect world, we are just using 1 or 2 microphone positions simultaneously, and that's probably how you all work. And with our new sampler, let's use all those great options. Let's do a mix of our choice and let the player merge them into a single mixdown channel. And this is the new microphone merging feature. It's fantastic, and it unveils so much potential of our wonderful collections. Of course, normally it takes a bit longer than this visualization, but I think you get it. You are now able to create your custom mixes and merge them into one single microphone position. Another helpful feature is the microphone remote view. What we see here is every loaded type of microphone perspectives. Tree is responsible for every tree involved in the sampler instance, so if you want to route them all to the same player output, you can just do it here, once for the whole player instance. When it comes to legato, we don't just made it even more fluid, we also introduced the legato matrix. You're able to apply legato transitions to nearly any articulation, and with the legato matrix, you are able to create complex rules based on the performance speed and velocity on which legato transition should be triggered. The new Orchestral Tools sample player is a powerful tool to customize every single articulation to your personal needs. Change the round-robin rules or dive into the many dynamic relevant options. This is really designed for professional users who are requesting a high degree of customization. For us, the Orchestral Tools sample player is not just a new player. It's a whole new ecosystem and a foundation for many game-changing developments in the future. The new Orchestral Tools sampler will be released within this year after a long and safe testing period, because reliability is paramount to us. I have to mention, we are all heavy users of Native Instruments Contact since many years, and that's why we decided to keep Contact for our products available. The new Orchestral Tools sample player will be free of charge to everyone. And with the introduction of the Orchestral Tools sample player, we also upgraded our store for a whole new experience. It's an honor to welcome Jan Leopolds. He is our General Manager at Orchestral Tools. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. Besides creating our own sampler ecosystem, we also took the time to make a revision of our brand. We designed a new corporate identity, a new logo, and a whole new store experience that will make your life much more easier. Let's have a look at the brand new Orchestral Tools online store.
The concept of how to make virtual instruments available to users was reimagined completely to make the shopping experience, managing your licenses, and staying up to date simply more convenient. Browse by studios to get collections from the same acoustic space, or simply browse by series. With the launch of the new storefront, we're particularly proud to announce Orchestral Tools Single Instruments. Single instruments are available from many Orchestral Tools collections for individual purchase. Browse through them by different attributes or directly via the collection view and get an overview about the included articulations, microphone perspectives, and an individual instrument's demo piece. Orchestral Tools Single Instruments lets you build your personal library from the finest virtual instruments in small and affordable steps. Thanks to Orchestral Tools' new user accounts, you'll be able to upgrade to the full collections at any time. Even if you have many different single instruments of a specific collection, you always get a fair upgrade price based on what you've already licensed. After many requests, we're happy to announce Orchestral Tools Bundles. Get sets of pre-selected collections with savings of up to 40% compared to individual collections. If you already own certain collections or even single instruments of a certain bundle, your personal upgrade price will reflect this. My Licenses lets you manage your licenses and gives you an overview of any available updates and upgrades to full collections or even bundles. All your invoices will be stored in one place and will be available for download at any time. As an Orchestral Tools customer, you'll be able to import your existing licenses to get all the available upgrade possibilities as soon as the new Orchestral Tools store will launch in 2019.
Well, this looks good, huh? And besides looking good, our new store gives you the freedom to buy whole collections, bundles, and even single instruments. So no matter what you're looking for, if you're looking for a complete setup like the Metropolis Arc series, for example, or if you just want to have a single instrument like the first trumpet of Berlin Brass, there's a completely flexible shopping experience waiting for you. So Hendrik just introduced our new sampler platform. As I just said, we will have a new and flexible online store. So now let's think about the possibilities when we merge these two parts into one. Well then, you are able to purchase, download and activate bundles, collections and instruments directly within the OT sample player. The downloading process is à la carte. This means that you decide which instrument and which microphone position you want to download. Well, as I said, this will make your life much easier and flexible. Imagine you are working on a production, you feel that a certain sound is missing. You just click on the store button, listen to the demos, purchase the instrument of your choice, download the microphone position that you currently need, and use your new instrument. So this is a very quick access to new inspiring sounds. And you don't need to deal with activation, installation, or adding a new collection into your player because it's all done automatically. And if there's an update available, the My Licenses page knows which version you have currently installed, and it offers the corresponding update. So we are very proud to announce this new system to all of you. Since the start of Orchestral Tools, this is by far the largest and most challenging project we have ever realized. And we had the best and most experienced partners on board. We are very happy and proud about this. There was Alita software from Sweden that is specialized on audio engines and audio processing. The guys are also here today. We'll have a beer later. And there is Skygate and Ondigo from Berlin who already built a digital concert hall for the Berlin Philharmonics. Axel Hartmann, who created a completely unique interface design for our instrument. Andreas Tell was a valuable consultant for us. And last but not least, Sten Bertson, our main developer at Orchestral Tools, who already developed our well-known interface Capsule. So we thank you all so much for your commitment. We at Orchestral Tools, we are looking into an eventful 2019 with a big smile. and we can't wait to add amazing content to this new system. Thank you so much for your attention.
Let's flash back to 1985 when the Roland S50 came out. You had 15 seconds in total that you could sample. Yes, I'm quiet. 15 seconds. The sample. Something that we take for granted now so easily. But you have to understand the beauty of what sampling is and how complicated this process is. I needed a sound voice in this industry. Therefore, I realized right from the beginning, I need to build my own sample libraries. And that's why we've gotten to the point to do my own brass library together with Orchestral Tools. I feel Orchestral Tools is the company that has the system down into the detail. Their interface is fantastic, their sample cutting is fantastic, the way that samples interact with one another, the playability, that for me was the main reason why I picked Orchestral Tools. And this is a really, really great collaboration between the two of us. Sound has always been the major inspiration to make music. What I want you to feel when you open up this sample library and you play your first line is you want to make music like straight away. That's how inspired you should be when you play this instrument.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Tom Holkenborg. Okay, so I have some questions for you.
Shoot.
You came into composing from the world of industrial noise and electronic music. At what age did you fall in love with classical instrumentation, and has it always been with you?
Actually, since I was really young, my mom was a violin teacher and a music teacher. My dad was a harmonica player. Music was part of our family. Everybody played multiple instruments. My dad would play the Beatles and Elvis primarily, and my mom would play like, classical music. So I just grew up with it, and it was not until 94, 95, roughly, where I'm completely self-taught. Everything in music. I had, drum lessons, guitar lessons when I was young, but I drove the teachers absolutely mad because I never studied whatever they wanted me to study. Nevertheless, in 94, 95, I felt like I was hitting let's say, harmonic and melodic ceiling, and that's when I really realized it's like, well, I have to really start studying to open up my mind to new possibilities, and I've done vigorously so. I'm an insomniac, so I've got hours to kill at night. So great for studying or binge watching, stuff on Netflix. It's awesome.
That's amazing. Now, when you talk about importance of sampling in that introduction video, how important has it been to your work and how you use libraries in your work?
Well, I'm 50 now, and so it meant that I was in my teens when the first sampler came out that people could afford. Wow. There was the Synclavier, there was the Fairlight, but you needed $1 million or $2 million bucks. that was not going to work, in the countryside of Holland where I grew up. So the Mirage came out like in the early 80s, which was my first sampler, and the second one was the S50 that I talked about here in this video with a whooping 15-second sampling time and a 2-minute load. But boy, were these amazing instruments, and it opened up my mind like completely. From that point on, I would say sampling has been my most important instrument, and I call it an instrument. So from very early on, I started sampling my own sample libraries. Like right away, I have my own drum kits and my bass guitar instruments, whatever. And then when I came to LA and I got into film scoring, what I also mentioned in the video is like sound for me is like the most important inspiration to make music. I'm not a paper and pencil guy, and I really respect people that are. They sit down in a park and they write like a minute of music a day or 2 minutes. I find it fascinating. But I need to be inspired by sounds, and it could come from anywhere. I just finished a film where a sound that was in there was inspired by a garbage truck that basically drove by, and it rumbled the whole building, and I was like, that's it. And then I had one of my assistants look for that garbage truck sound for 2 weeks. I drove him just completely mad, but he found it, and then I make music with that. So cut to orchestral instruments. For me, it's actually the same thing. If you open up a library, you need to write something for a flute or for a violin or for a church organ, if you will. If you're not a pencil and paper guy who has a perfect understanding how this will work out in the real world, you need to be inspired by a sound. So if you load a flute sample that sounds absolutely terrible, I mean, how are you going to write the melody of your life? And I have a serious issue with that. And I think a lot of people out there. So for me, it's so important that things sound so incredibly good, like straight out of the box. And therefore, I found it very important to, develop a library like this.
Amazing. So what did you feel was missing from the industry, and what did you want to achieve with this library?
Well, I mean, like, where do you start? I mean, first off, I have the highest regards for anybody over the last 30 years that have or pioneered or is making at this point sample libraries. If I were wearing a hat, I would take the hat off for you all, because you guys doing fantastic work. And most of the composers in this town or anywhere in the world would not know what to do if these sample libraries were not available for us to make. So I want to point that out first. Second, I felt that brass instruments was the one instance where I think we can really, really improve. And the ideas that I had about how to build a brass library. How do you build a brass library that is great for people that write 100% orchestral music? How do you build a brass library that is great for people that want to sound like Hans Zimmer, for instance? How do you build a brass library that can be used by hip-hop producers? How do you build a brass library that can be used by people that are very sound design in nature? Like, what needs to happen for Trent Reznor to use a brass library? So all these things were really like playing in my mind, and I came up with this whole concept together with the wonderful developers of orchestral tools, and I'm very excited that, at a certain point this thing is going to be done. We're still working on it, by the way.
So power and versatility, right?
Absolutely.
You are not a traditional composer. Where does brass sit in your composition process, and why did you want to start building your library from brass?
Well, yes, I wouldn't say I'm a traditional composer. I call myself a full contact composer, which I need to hold something. I need to play. I need to play with something, so I use a lot of instruments in my studio, where it's like modular synths or synthesizers or real guitars or bass guitars, percussion instruments, whatnot. I really tried, but it's almost impossible to find the best 40 brass players on the planet and stick them in one bedroom, just keep them there for a couple of years. It's pretty hard. So you actually need to do this with a brass library. And for me, that was very important to get it really right and to get it really inspirational. And because I'm not a traditional composer, I look at each element of the orchestral family also as from a production side point of view. It's like when I need like a certain sound or a certain frequencies, oh, this could be taken care of by the strings, or this could be taken care of by woodwinds, or this could be taken care of by brass. Besides the fact that I usually get asked to score films where the sound needs to be like larger than absolutely life, and Mad Max is a good example, or Batman versus Superman, or the movie coming out in 2 weeks, Alita, Battle Angel, and I felt that existing brass libraries were not giving what I'm looking for, but especially the versatility. Like I want to be very clear. I don't want to build a brass library that is like, oh, when you buy that, you can do a Mad Max score, or you can do this. No, this needs to be a library that caters to everybody. You know, from the smallest sounding emotional trumpet to like the biggest horn section you ever dreamed of on the planet to have in your film score. So it needs to cover everything.
Wow.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, no, that sounds amazing. So I know you've studied so much of film score genre and orchestral history. What are the golden ages of brass in film composition, and why?
I mean, brass is like everywhere. I mean, especially for me, it started actually, the late 1800s into the early 20th century with fantastic composers like Mahler, Bruckner, the Russian composers. What they were able to do with brass and the violent quality that it had at times, that's really where for brass at least the seeds were being planted that we would then later hear in film scoring. I would say I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but the first Max Steiner score for the first King Kong movie was incredible. The way that Bernard Herrmann used brass in his Hitchcock films, but also a bunch of other films. Then a secret pleasure of mine is the first Dracula movie from the 60s. This is like an English composer who was actually born in 18-something, and he did one or two Dracula movies and then he died. So it wasn't really like he was starting a career. It was like, it was kind of the end of it. But the way that brass was being used in that is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And obviously what happened, later, the way that John Williams introduced the orchestra back into film in the late 70s. The way that Hans Zimmer took a spin on what to do with brass, and the most exceptional in that world is obviously the Inception score. So and then brass has been everywhere. Just like all the time. So for me, it was important that we need really good brass libraries and very versatile brass libraries.
Great. So why did you choose Orchestra Tools versus anybody else as your collaboration partner for this library? I will say a thing or two about it, but just watch the couple of videos that we just saw. I mean, like, these guys, in my humble opinion, are light years ahead when it comes to design and flexibility of sounds. What I said in the video, the sample cutting, the way that the instruments have playability, and the fact these are like the nicest guys on the planet to work with, which is an important thing for me too. But it's especially the quality of the product, the way that they take things extremely serious. That was like very, very important for me. Amazing. And what did you like about the recording process in Berlin?
Well, what is there not to like about Berlin? It's just, it's a great town. It has a really rich history in making music and performing music. For who is not familiar, the Berlin Philharmonic for 50, 60 years has been the top orchestra in the world. Actually beaten every now and then by the Dutch orchestra, the Concertgebouw Orchestra, who has been, it's the Dutch-German thing. It's like with classical music and soccer, but other than that, we're cool. Right? Anyway, there's a really rich history there, and the amount of players there are fantastic. Also, Berlin is packed with 3-4 classic studios. Germany, by history, also has been very innovative when it comes to building preamps, building microphones. I only need to mention companies like Neumann and Sennheiser, Telefunken. So there's so much knowledge in Germany when it comes to recording and playing instruments. So it wasn't such a hard choice, actually.
Great. Tom Holkenborg, Junkie XL, everybody.
Thank you very much.
What an amazing news. Just FYI, for the latest updates about Junkie XL brass can be found on jxlbrass.orchestraltools.com. So feel free to subscribe for further news right there. Tom, thank you so much for the talk again. And now we want to move on to the next chapter. An event like this is a great opportunity to give you a little view behind the curtain of how Orchestral Tools works. Many years and thousands of hours were necessary to build a new sample player. But there's another ambitious software development that is internally known as the SAW. Please welcome to the stage main developer Stan Berzen. Hi, Stan.
Hi.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what is the SAW?
So SAW means sampled audio workstation. It is our custom software where we build our instruments from scratch. And fortunately, the acronym makes sense as well, as we actually sew up the recorded takes into thousands of pieces.
That's great. And why did you decide to build a custom editing suite? I mean, aren't there enough of DAWs out there that could do just the same job?
Well, there are plenty of benefits having a custom tool doing an internal process. So first of all, you don't rely on any third-party program, so where you sometimes suffer from limitations or missing features. Not so long ago, our workflow was like doing step 1 in app 1, converting it to software B, doing step 2 there, then transferring data from software to and so on. So it was just like this data transfer time alone cost a huge amount of time. And now having a custom tool frees that time and saves even more, as we are now able to create features for our needs. And yeah, another benefit is as we started the project OT Sampler, we recognized pretty quick that there isn't any workspace where we can build our instruments based on this new platform. So we decided to integrate audio editing and finalizing into one piece.
That sounds amazing. Now, will SAW be available for everyone?
Unfortunately not. So we keep this pure internally as it fits our workflow only.
Okay. Now, guys, I happen to notice this really, really cool looking logo back. I mean, I'm just enjoying this. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I wanted to create a logo as I would do for a metal band, and this is what I came up with. So.
All right, thank you so much,
Thank you,
Stan.
Julia. Thank you.
A while ago, when I asked Henrik about what makes a really good sampled virtual instrument, he answered, there are 3 important facts you should care about: the concept, the musicians, and the room. For Orchestral Tools, it's been very important where to record. It's not just about the room, it's also about the way of how musicians perform in different countries and in different cultures. Now, guess where guys captured this next inspiring collection? I love that lady over there. Photobomb. Yeah, you guessed right. It's at the iconic United Recording Studios here in Los Angeles.
I wouldn't say that you're not the one I've waited for, but I sure can say that we both have changed. I'm not supposed to tell you what you should have done, but I would say that you did some things wrong. Now you're living in a big gray town, and I'm just still hanging around. I ain't complaining about that fact, but it's just too easy to say life's like that. Against the world, that's what they said. That's what they said, babe. Two against the world. Now is everybody on their own? You're out there having fun, while I sit here and having none. I sit here and having none. And I know you won't, 'cause you're too afraid. I know you're weak, but you never would tell. You never would tell. You never would tell. I know you're weak, but you just never would tell. Never would tell.
Please welcome again General Manager Jan Leopold.
Hey, Julia.
So Jan, Orchestral Tools is well known for their symphonic instruments. Why did you decide to create a collection for the singer-songwriter genre?
Well, you know, after creating a lot of tools for composers, for film and other media, we decided to open our brand also to other genres, because we feel that there are a lot of gaps in the market that we want to fill with well thought out sample collections. We started with the LA sessions because something like this is needed. Personally, I'm the total target audience for this product because I write songs and not scores. And I've been working for 10 years now at Orchestral Tools, and honestly, I'm super happy that we will release a product that I will use heavily in my productions. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what makes this collection so special?
LA Sessions contains all instruments you need for a singer-songwriter indie production. For example, a drum set, basses, different guitars, small string sections, a gospel choir, different percussion elements. So everything recorded with a high-class setup in a beautiful room. It's often like that when you're in the studio. You work on a song, you always spend time thinking about questions like which drum set should I use, which bass does fit, where do I get the choir from? So you spend hours to find the right instruments out of different developers, right? So and sometimes it's annoying because you came into the studio to make music and not to do a research. So, and with this library, this problem is totally solved. Yeah. And because, yeah, everything you need to create that type of music is inside. And it blends perfectly together because it is recorded in one room with one philosophy.
And why did you decide to capture those instruments in Los Angeles in the United States?
Well, the United Recording Studio is a really legendary place with a special spirit. Already back in the past, it was one of the most successful independent recording studios out there. Well, artists like Frank Sinatra, the Rolling Stones, Michael Jackson, and Tom Petty, they recorded their albums there. But also nowadays, bands like the Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, Beck, and John Mayer, they record their stuff there because they trust the engineers, they trust these rooms. And after our research, we realized that Studio B has the perfect size for our project. So we called the guys at United. And the other reason why we took the long flight from Germany to LA was because of the musicians. Because here in LA, we found the specific sound that we were looking for. We wanted to have that certain pop music character in the tone. And that's what we found here in LA.
That sounds great. Is there an estimated release date for this?
The library will be available in 2019 on our new sampler platform.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jan.
You're welcome. Bye.
Are you guys looking forward to this? I'm so looking forward to this. The art of scoring. Since about 3 years, Scoring Berlin offers the finest session musicians in one of the best sounding rooms. The city, a European hotspot for classical music, culture, and the world's best orchestras. Until today, Scoring Berlin got quite busy with a lot of different projects. Please welcome Tom Roosevelt, CEO of Scoring Berlin.
Thank you.
So, what exactly is Scoring Berlin?
Well, Scoring Berlin is a music production company focused on film scorings and orchestral recordings, and we always strive to the highest standards in our production chain. So we provide all services starting from the music preparation, that means the orchestration, the arranging, the score preparation, like creating parts and scores, studio booking, also the musicians contracting, and at the end, the engineering, like recording, editing, and mixing.
Great. Do you use same studio for your sampling recordings as you use for the orchestra sessions?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. We do most of our recordings at the TEDx scoring stage, which is a 450 square meter big hall in Berlin, built in the late 19th century as a concert and dancing hall. And just by chance, TEDx has the same size like Abbey Road 1, so it can fit easily a 100-piece orchestra plus choir.
All right, well, let's see some impressions from a session in Berlin. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome to the stage composer known for the Ice Age, Disney's Anastasia, and Animals United. Please welcome Mr. David Newman.
Is this what we're talking about, the scoring thing?
Yes,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Because I've been to Teldex twice. Can I say one thing just
Yes,
before
of
we
course.
go on? I started composing in 1986 when there was none of this, at least for me. I was a pencil and paper and piano person. And as the years went by and I started mocking stuff up, I'm sure all of you remember the horrible, tremendous pain that technology, the great stuff that it did for us, but the pain and the brick wall that it put up in terms of being, as Tom said, inspired. And it is absolutely amazing what you guys have done, and the entire community, but particularly you guys. This new sample player just looks completely awesome. And the whole thing that we're all looking for is for technology to completely disappear so that we can so that we can work and our brains work. And one other thing is, I remember when I used to work on the piano, writing stuff, writing it down. It's so scary. All of us that are composers know this, to start from nothing. But when you start to be able to kind of dick around with samples and stuff, it gets your brain away from how scared you are, and it actually is really inspiring, the sound. I've never really thought of it that way, but I think a lot of times if I'm blocked, I just go mess around with some sample libraries and my brain gets into a different place. So I just want to thank you guys for all the stuff that you do. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
I don't want to be up here for a long time, but and I feel a little bit like a traitor because we have scoring here as well. So, but go ahead and ask what you want.
Oh. Here it comes.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, as you did a few projects at Teldex already, what is your impression about the room and infrastructure?
It's very much like an Abbey Road room. As Tom was saying, the microphones, the preamps are amazing. It was very scary when I first went, because I didn't know what the musicians would be like. I mean, we all know this has been a process of learning for orchestral musicians around the world. That's why most everything was done in Los Angeles and couldn't really be done. But they worked and worked at it, and they got a really great group of people, some from the Berlin Phil, some from the Deutsche Oper, some from the others, but they all really want to be there. And they have a lot of endurance, and you don't get a lot of bad pushback, which was very surprising to me. And the crew, this guy and their mixer are amazing. I've never had a mix like the last time I was there. It was an amazing experience for me.
Thank you.
And it's a beautiful room. So.
Thanks.
So, Tom, taking that, what are the benefits of recording in Berlin?
Well, benefits, I'd like to say working with nearly no restrictions is quite a great deal. So we try to keep everything as easy and transparent as possible. So that means the minimum booking time for a musician is a 3-hour session. And whatever happens in this session is totally up to our clients. So, for example, if you want to do overdubs to separate longs and shorts or any kind of doublings, that's allowed. There's also no restriction when it comes to the recorded amount of time per hour. And at the end of the day, you get a total buyout worldwide, and also the rights to use the recording on multiple medias like CD, DVD, television, streaming, video games, or even on multiple productions. But for me, the huge benefit, and that was the idea for me to found Score in Berlin, is to provide a service in Berlin where we're focused on our clients' needs, and where they just have to talk to one person and let us organize everything. So if you, for example, want to bring your own scores and parts, we're happy to just book studio, engineer, the musicians, or you can also bring your own engineer if you want to. So no matter what the plan for our client is, we're more than happy to support them at any point of the production chain.
Wow, that solves a lot of problems for composers.
I hope so.
Now, Dave, as I've just heard, you are working with the orchestral tools collections as well. Do you see the benefits of recording in the same room where your samples were made?
I think so. I mean, to a degree, I think that helps. I mean, I think all of us use multiple different libraries, but my go-to one, it's why I'm here, is the orchestral tools, and I do think the room really helps with the samples and blending the samples.
Okay, now let's talk about the musicians. Dave, Europe, especially Berlin, has a long tradition of classical orchestration. Can you tell us something about the music history and its influence on the music in Hollywood?
Yeah, well, not to be contrarian to what Tom said, I think most early film music was pretty string dominated with certain exceptions. It was very hard to record brass in the 30s. But a lot of the players came from Europe, obviously, during the 30s when sound and films started. And they have obviously the Berlin Philharmonic, the Deutsche Oper, and I don't know if you guys have seen that digital concert house that you briefly mentioned that somebody here designed, I think. One of you guys designed it. It's amazing. That orchestra plays like they're crazy. They're phrasing all the time. It's a really energetic place, which I think for film music is a really important part of your music and the performance is how into it, how much they're phrasing and being actors and doing your music. So, but there's a long history of expatriate players that came and lived here, lived a lot in Los Angeles and helped build that the music part of the industry. Well, actually all of it, but very much the music part of it.
Tom, where are your players from?
Well, as Dave just said, Berlin has a long history when it comes to the orchestras. So looking back to the years before 1989, Berlin was divided into East and West. So because of that, even everything was doubled. So, and that we do have also today. So we've got 7 orchestras, so 4 symphony orchestras and 3 opera orchestras. And we have access to more than 1,000 musicians playing day by day together in these orchestras, which is, I think, quite unique.
That's amazing. Dave, the Berlin Philharmonic is one of the best orchestras in the world. Do you think this is also this also has unique influence to the overall quality of the Berlin orchestras?
Yeah, like that's what I said. I think it does have an effect. I also think it has an effect that they're playing opera, classical music. I'm sure they're playing pop music. A lot of them probably play jazz, and they're not just doing one thing, which they seem to now, which they used to probably poo-poo and think that this was beneath them to do. But I think that now, pretty much anywhere you go, particularly in Berlin, everyone's really up for whatever you throw at them, which is, I'd say, a relatively new concept around the world. So.
Let's wander a little bit off the beaten path. Berlin has a huge clubbing and arts scene, Tom. How does that reflect on the music industry?
Well, I think it's a feeling and a lifestyle that grew over the past few years. So many artists, like musicians, composers, also directors just moved to Berlin, and because the potential is nearly endless. And also most of our clients love to enjoy the Berlin scene, the nightlife, after the recording and mixing sessions, and we're always happy to join them, to show them the best places and go out for party or whatever. But besides that, Berlin has always been the city with the most professional orchestras worldwide, I guess. And I think it's really something special that will remain for the next few years, because it's as Steph already said, part of our culture.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Newman and Tom Rosenthal.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. As we sadly approach the end of Orchestral Tools' first keynote event, I just wanted to say, 2019 has just started, and we can't wait to release this fantastic set of creative tools. Now, for the end, please welcome again Henrik and Jan. No kissing this time.
Yeah, this time no.
Okay, then I'll leave.
Okay, Jan. I know there's a lot of amazing new things you have on your list, and I assume it's not trivial to get it all managed, huh? So I'm left with the question, what is next?
Well, we introduced a lot of great new stuff for 2019 today, but yes, there is something else we want to show you.
We thought about a new ensemble instrument, structured in layers of different kinds. These could be different colors of instruments, or even notes arranged in chords. You see, layers can be stacked, or you can move through them. It's an experience, and the simple fascination of what acoustic sounds can do when arranged in different shades and combinations. It's all performed by a studio ensemble made of defined and small sections, hand-picked musicians from contemporary orchestras in Berlin, captured at the Teldec scoring stage. A studio string ensemble, a defined woodwind section in bright brass. This is Layers, studio ensembles. Start with chords and move through the layers. Or simply perform with long notes full of character. Available soon to everyone as a free download.
All right. Henrik, what is the concept behind Layers?
So, Layers contains a complete studio orchestra. It's a small chamber-sized string section, and there is a woodwind and a small brass setup. And we just try to capture it as a very intimate sound with a lot of character in it. And the idea behind this collection is that everything is arranged in layers, so it's the name of the library. And I think those layers could be instrumentations, or it could also be strings at the bottom, and when you move a controller you can fade in the woodwinds and brass on top. And layers could also be stacked notes or better chords. So we recorded all three appropriations of major, minor and suspended chords for all through three sections individually. And the great thing about having them separately for all those sections is that you stay very flexible with it. And at the end, it's also just fun to play with it. And what I really like is that you can really hear how wonderful such an orchestra sounds at Teldec. And that's why we decided to create Layers as one of the first collections that is specifically designed for our new orchestral tool sample player.
Jan, when will Layers be available?
Layers will be available in 2019, and it will be the first library that we will release on our new sample platform, as Hendrik said. And the great thing about Layers, beside that it's a really cool and inspiring collection, is that it will be for free. So if you download and test our new sampler platform, you will get this product for free.
Now, before we close the show today, it's a personal desire to thank everyone who was involved in all those projects and productions. And I just want to thank you all for all the great work. And then I would like to thank you. You were an amazing audience today. It was great here to have you here at this Paramount Theater.
Yeah,
thank you very much. And of course, I would like to thank everyone out there who is watching our live stream today. So thank you for dialing in, and have a nice day. And there's one very last thing now, and there is another event coming up this week, right?
Yeah, we're, as every year in January, we're here in LA for the NAMM show. We have a booth there. This is a picture of our booth last year. We have 4 test stations where you can try our libraries. So everybody who's at the NAMM show, please join us at our booth number 14522. We can have a little conversation, and Tom will also join us on Friday, right? So Tom will be there on Friday at 1 p.m. For a little like hanging around, have conversation, have cool talks. So everybody's welcome to join us there.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our keynote speakers. Thank you for coming. It was such a pleasure having you here. Please drop by the booth. Go to the website, check out all those new releases. I am so excited for all those new things that are coming up from Orchestral Tools, as I can probably imagine you are. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot.